Yo, what's up guys? The last few videos in Up Your Artifact game. This is gonna be a more practical one, going over units by element, talking about which artifacts would I put on which unit for RTA. It does also kind of translate towards Siege, but Siege is a little bit more different. I'm gonna use the same intro for all of the elements. So the thing I want to talk about, a few things. If I mention it, I might have already talked about it in another video. I'm not completely gonna repeat it. So maybe you have some questions afterwards, like, oh, why would you use this or that, or how does it work? Check the other videos. They're down in the description as well. Also, if I just call out or anything high efficient, which I might do pretty often, that means that multiple lines are useful for that unit with high efficiency. So just having, like, for example, super high crit damage skill 3 on the unit might not be the best, because you can also have some damage from good, damage from bad, or like crit damage from good, crit damage from bad, single target crit damage, those kind of things. So keep that in mind. Either how, this one is fire. Let's dive into the video. Also, if I go over any unit, or if I miss any of the units and you're like, oh, how about Rakan? I'm like, yeah, sorry, no one uses Rakan in RTA, and if you do, you should stop doing that. So I'm just going over the units that are actually used in RTA, and if your unit is missing, then you probably should stop using the unit because it's not that great. Sure, in lower ranks, it can totally work. Everything can work at the lower ranks, but I'm talking like endgame stuff. Okay, so talking about light and dark, I'm gonna do light and dark combined because a lot of them are not used in RTA. So I'm only gonna talk about the ones that you see to a certain extent or a decent amount in RTA, and therefore I'm probably faster with light and dark than the normal elements. So let's get going. So Nasha is probably the first unit you would see in RTA. I would probably go Eki S2 on her. Wait, does she Eki S3? Yeah, and then probably just crit damage things. Does she also give her speeds? Yeah, she also gives the attack speed to herself, so speed increasing effect is also useful on her. Valantis is a unit you see a lot right now, and he's really good. It's one of those units you probably fix accuracy in the build itself, otherwise go for some accuracy, but all three skills have an accuracy check, so I think you would have already fixed your accuracy by that. You could go for additional damage lines, which, like, additional damage by speed, additional damage by HP. And besides that, I am not too sure what would be good on him, but I think somewhere along that line. Jean is used sometimes Eki S3 and Eki S1 and some reduction skills. Eleanor, recovery S2 is an option, but you recover like a really minimum amount. It's mostly not that much, so it's not that great. So Eki S1, Eki S2 is decent-ish, and then some reductions probably. Celia, it's been... no. Is this even used? I don't know. Eki S1. The crit damage has 1. No, I would say crit damage is 1. Maybe some Eki here and there. Tian Lang unit that's used a lot. I think you would fix most of the Eki in the build itself. And then I would just go high additional damage lines. Additional damage from speed, additional damage from HP. Oberon, you could actually make Oberon crit rate slot 4 and fix crit damage in the artifacts, which is not bad on Oberon at all, because Oberon is pretty difficult to rune right now since the crit rate fix, and therefore adding like the crit damage from artifacts and going crit rate slot 4 might be easier for people to actually be able to use their Oberon in like a decent way. Widget is used here and there, not that much, but I'm not even sure what would be good on him. Probably there's nothing too much good on him. Maybe an Eki S1. That's about it. Pontus is used a lot. Probably Eki S2. And besides that, artifacts would not do too much for him. So anything that's high efficient that would probably work, of like reduction effects, or maybe try to make him do some damage, or even just additional damage by speed and HP would add like a little bit to him. This unit is used sometimes, I would say Eki S2, Eki S1, but besides that, it doesn't do too much. Yeon Hong is used less these days, but I would definitely go additional damage from HP, additional damage from speed, and if you have high crit rate, which most people don't, then you could go Eki or crit damage S2, but the crit rate is mostly low, that is not really worth it. Asima is definitely one of those. You could go Eki S2, Eki S3, but I would probably just do a lot of additional damage lines. Additional damage from attack, speed, HP. Artemil is an interesting one. You could go Recovery as 2, which is good. Eki as 1 is good, so you don't put any Eki in the bolt itself. Additional damage for counters is really good, so I would probably go a combination of those 3. Qingtian Dashing, probably one of those units, again, you want to fix the accuracy in the bolt itself. And then there's not too much left also what you really want to put accurate or like artifact lines on. So maybe you could say like you go 75 accuracy and you try to find an artifact that's like 15 and 15 or something like that, 10 and 10 and then 75, or like the 70 and then 15 15. Jaeger is definitely one of those units, 100% crit rate, and then you can start adding like a lot of additional crit damage from your artifacts, which is probably the best thing to do. If you have him Vampire, you can also add like additional life drain. It's pretty good on Jaeger. Laura's not really used as much, but I would say additional damage from attack, speed, or no, wait, from speed and HP. Lima is not used as much, but additional damage from speed and HP. Recovery S3 does not work. You could go Eki S2, but probably mainly additional damage from speed and HP are good. Julian is not really used as much, but I would just go high crit rate on him and then add more crit damage and maybe use him against a specific element and then add like that specific element like high damage artifact on it. Same for Sean, same as Julian. It's not used as much. Maybe you can go like an Eki S3 so you don't have to put that much Eki on this unit and then just adding some more crit damage. Seraph is used by pretty much Pinkroid. No one else, but probably crit damage S3 and recovery S2, and then I would go some additional damage on some elements. Achroma, I would say make Achroma high crit rate, and then you can add additional damage lines, like, and maybe like you can check which unit you're mostly drafting Achroma in. Is that fire? Is that wind? So fire would probably be like Okeanos, that kind of stuff. Is that wind would be like Hathor. And then you can put like additional damage on that element on it. And you can go Eki S2. I think Eki S2 is really good, so you can put like 0 Eki on Achroma furthermore, besides the Eki S2. Kinky, I would definitely put Kinky on Eki S1 because that's his only Eki check, and besides that probably attack increasing or additional damage by attack or by HP. Probably HP even, because a lot of people stack this on high HP, those kind of lines. Tableau is used here and there. I would probably go Eki S1, Eki S2. Eki S2 is the most important. And then on the left side, I would do some additional damage from speed or HP or attack or whatever stat you have, probably speed. Molly is still used to a fair amount, which is definitely recovery S3, Eki S1, and then additional speed from lost HP. Gemini is used here and there, but the only thing that would be actually good on him is Eki S2. Besides that, not too much would add to him, I think. So probably additional damage lines. Lauren is not really used as much anymore, but additional damage lines is probably the best. You don't really want to go Eki S2, 3 or 1, 2 or 3, because you want to fix Eki in the bolt itself. But additional damage lines are pretty good. Fran is one of those units. She has really low base defense, so I would recommend the base stat of the defense. Or attack is also decent, and then you could go recovery S2, S3, but you can also do additional damage for the S1, so it's kind of a trade-off where you have like the better artifact for. Okay, I quickly noticed that I missed out the 2As. So for 2As, Asher is pretty used. Eki S2, additional damage from HP and speed. I wouldn't necessarily go like high crit rate on him, so crit damage S3 doesn't add too much, so it's probably just the additional damage by speed and HP. And that's pretty much all for light. Let's go to dark. Let's do that in one video this time. Thrain is used here and there. I would probably Eki S2, Eki S3, maybe additional damage by speed. That kind of stuff. By attack could also do. It's not used that much. Miho, I would put crit damage S1 more than crit damage S2, because S2 is never added by the passive in the crit damage, and most Mihos are not that high crit damage. So crit damage S2 is way less value for Miho than crit damage S1, because most Mihos are not that high crit rate. And if they counter, it's always a crit, unless glancing. Additional damage by counter is also pretty good, and Miho is pretty good on additional attack from low HP, because she actually stays at a really low HP and therefore gets like pretty much 801 extra attack if you have 100% of that, for example. Kiki is being used some, not that many people have her or people have her at all, but probably I would say some Eki S2, S3. Not that sure besides it what would be good on her, to be honest. Onyogi, probably one of those units again, additional damage by... If you still have these artifacts of increased speed by or during inability effects, he's a good one for that, definitely. But besides it, I would probably add more additional damage by attack or Eki S1. So this one is not really used, not gonna talk about. This one is actually also not really used, but additional damage lines, I guess. Mookwool, Cleanser. Probably Eki S2 to max that out, but besides that, I think he doesn't have that many artifact lines that are really good for him. Xenia is also not used as much, but just add more damage. In what way? Maybe Eki S3, that could help out some. Beelzebub, crit damage S1, crit damage S2, probably have like 100% crit rate. And that is about it. I would probably add more crit damage S1 than S2, because S2 is probably one-shotting anyways when you use it. Bella, high, additional damage from speed and probably HP or attack. Looking at the base stats, probably more attack than HP. Airtight is not used as much, but crit damage is 1, everything to add more crit damage is 1. Pater or Patar, I'm still not sure how he's called. I would say crit damage S2, Eki S1, Eki S3, those are pretty decent as well. Leona, probably Eki S1, Eki S2, mainly Eki S2. And then on the left side, probably some reductions from whatever you think counters Leona, Alexandra. Probably Eki S2, and besides that, I don't really know. Maybe some additional damage lines. The reflect is not really that good. I wouldn't add like more reflects on it. Viva Child's not used as much anymore, but crit damage S1, I would probably add quite some crit rate on her, and then crit damage S1 would add some, and then recovery S2 would probably work. Miyang is not really used, but additional damage effects. Again, recovery S2 doesn't work because it's a skill which gives a buff rather than a heal right away. Nyx, I would definitely go Eki S2 and probably attack increasing or additional damage by speed or something like that. I think that's the best thing for Nyx. Nephthys, I would definitely go additional damage on speed and HP, unless you actually make her like crit rate with crit damage. Then you could add to like up to put her like crit rate slot 4 and add the crit damage from artifacts, which could work out for her. But she has 2 skills you want to add that on, so probably it's better to just fix that in the stats itself and then just go additional damage from speed, additional damage from HP. Veramos is used here and there. I would probably add additional speed from low HP, and besides that maybe some put like crit rate on him and give like crit damage artifacts. Lydia, probably just add more crit damage. Wunsa doesn't have too much. You could go Eki S2, Eki S3, but it's probably maxed out already in the build itself. So you could go some lines from like additional damage on speed, HP, but besides that, he doesn't have something that's too crazy. You could check into what you think counters Wunsa the most. Like let's say Juno would counter Wunsa the most, and then you add like additional damage on fire on that, for example. Ragdoll is pretty simple. Additional like single target crit damage is 1, crit damage is 2, and then maybe you have a specific unit you always fight when you pick Ragdoll. You can put like damage reduction from that element or on that element. Nikki is one of those units. Attack increasing effect is pretty good on her because she actually has her own attack buff, and then if you have attack increasing effect stacking with additional damage from attack, you have a double stack. And that does a lot of damage for the S3. Recovery S2 is pretty good, and that's about it. Gianna is again same as Sierra. I wouldn't go for accuracy S2, S3 because you kind of want to have maxed anyhow. S3 is more important than S2, so if you don't have it maxed, prioritize the Aki S3. Do not go for bomb damage because it's not that likely that a bomb of Gianna explodes, and it doesn't add that much damage because she mostly not that much attack. So if you go additional damage from speed, HP, attack, defense, even everything, you just add a lot more damage. So that's what I would definitely recommend for Gianna. Han, I would definitely rune on Aki S2, S3 probably, and additional damage. So you could go crit damage S3, which is an option. You could even go crit rate slot 4 and then therefore have your crit damage 3. But you kind of want to crit damage on all 3 skills. So this may be a little bit more difficult. Single target crit damage is really good on Han because it provides for all his 3 skills. But also additional damage from speed or HP. Or additional damage from speed, HP or attack is really good on Han too. This one is used from time to time and definitely one for fix Aki in the build itself and then go additional damage from speed and probably HP. So Icarus is used from time to time. I would go recovery S3, recovery S2, and then reductions on the other side. So reduction from like elements or adding extra speed from like low HP. Those are all the 5 elements. Again, let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a thing or two. And that's about it for this series. If I have more things to talk about in the future, or you have anything else that I didn't discuss in any of the previous videos or in the current one, let me know in the comments as well, and I might make a follow-up. But I think this is pretty much a wrap for the series of Up Your Artifact game. I hope you enjoy, I hope you learned a thing or two. And thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.